program is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. The information provided in this podcast reflects the opinions and experiences of the hosts and is not medical or mental health advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any questions about your health or well-being. If you are experiencing a medical or mental health emergency, contact your local emergency services.
I think it's important for all of us to understand the impact of multi-generational behavior on our life. Would I rather be a person who looks at the whole person, comes to a deep awareness for them so they can get beyond their local problem, that you're not tying into a feeling, you're just embedding. You're embedding a command over and over. You're allowing your brain to hear that you're worth loving. And you're allowing your brain to hear how valuable you are.
Welcome to the Adjusting Your Life podcast. I'm Kennedi, and I'm here with Dr. Steve. On today's episode, we're talking about the importance of having a purpose.
This episode of the Adjusting Your Life podcast is brought to you by Ward Chiropractic. Dr. Steve finds what most doctors miss. And his wall adjustment technique, it can bring fast relief. Check out chiroman.com for hours, location, and to contact the clinic. That's chiroman, chiroman.com.
Why is it so important that someone has a deep-rooted purpose?
Well, I always look at purpose as when you have a purpose, you have power over the direction you're going in life. So a person without a purpose, to me, is like a ship at sea without a rudder. The ship is always going, but it has no power over the direction it goes.
So what would you recommend to a patient that's in that current situation, as far as where could a starting place be for them to find their purpose?
Well, as a chiropractor who has studied standing and seated, front and side view, full spine x-rays for the last 37 years, I can see, based on studying curvature, when a person has a purpose or when they don't. And most people that come to me, when I ask them the question, what's your purpose? So many people answer the same way, and that is, I don't know. So early on, when I would hear that a lot, my brain would go to the spinal images I was taking and looking for the commonality in those people that really had no clue about purpose, and found specific spinal patterns that gave awareness as to information on purpose.
So what would one of those patterns look like?
When I see a spine that goes backward in curvature, so the person's going back. When I see that pattern, so often they have either a father abandonment, or they had a father that worked all the time, or they had a father that didn't know how to love. And so the patient's spinal curve indicates a backward curve. Well, when the spine deviates too far backward, or too far forward, or too far left, or too far right, what that means is they're actually losing sight of their own identity. So when I would see this backward curve, 99 times out of 100, when I would ask the person what their purpose was, 99 times out of 100, I was told they didn't know. And to me, having a deep-rooted purpose is so essential for our life, for our health, for our ability to grow and evolve in our life. So to me, helping a patient who comes in for a treatment, and they're coming in because they're in pain, but I'm going to bring awareness to them as to what eyes they're seeing their life through, and I want to help them to see their life through their own eyes, as opposed to someone else's eyes, and so often the eyes we see our life through are wounded eyes, not healthy eyes.
So, Dr. Steve, let's expand on the absent father. Can you talk about the difference between a father being physically absent, but then one where they're in the home, but they're still absent? They're physically there, but not there as well.
Yes. Well, when looking at the spine, I may see a backward curve in both examples. It just means that there was a disconnect from the father to the child. And so we see this backward curve. And over the years, I have seen how that backward curve indicated complete abandonment of the father, that the father just wasn't there. But then I found that the father so often was there. Maybe the father was passive. In most cases, they attracted a dominant female. And so they are present, but they're not really fully present. They are the role of a father, especially if his wife is a dominant female, is to be able to step up and boundary off the dominant female. So the father might say, well, dear, you had this trauma with your father that really hurt you. And that trauma that took place in your life occurred before you had kids. Mm-hmm. And so your desire to take out the wound in your childhood experience on your kids is probably not the best thing to do, because that wound occurred before you had your kids. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's a role of a father, to step up and protect the child, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, when I'm looking at purpose, the parental role is always a big part of whether or not someone is conscious of what their purpose is. Because a lot of people are more conscious of inadequacy,
right,
and more conscious of expectations, and more in alignment with thinking their value is in what they do or what they attain. And those people often attain very high level. However, so often, no matter what they've attained, they still do not feel fulfilled. So there is a disconnect that's occurring there. Okay.
So what's something that parents could do? Because what it sounds like you're saying is that the parents don't have purpose, and then you have a child you're raising, and then they're floundering in what their identity / purpose is. What are steps parents could take to be able to influence their kids, but like have the foundation to be able to parent in a way that they're coming from a place of their purpose, and then being able to influence their child? You know, there's a foundational part that seems to be missing.
Yes, well, I think it's important for all of us to understand the impact of multi-generational behavior on our life, and how so much of us are seeing our life through the eyes of someone else, and how we expect a parent who came from wound to know how to be healthy and know how to provide a child with what they need in order to strengthen their child's identity, because it's going to start there. Meaning, if I'm a parent and I'm consistently validating the intentional energy of my child, mm-hmm. so I recognize, oh, my child's really trying hard, working hard, I'm going to take a moment, we're going to really get in a program of celebrating what's going on with the child in the day-to-day, right? Mm-hmm. So help that child to understand how amazing they are when they attain their goal or when they fall short of their goal. The child still needs to hear that they're enough, mm-hmm. okay? So So to me, it's such a parent process, because if the parent can get to awareness and see things differently, then the impact on the child is going to be tremendous. And the children that have absent parents, as a rule, they don't have a clue. So some of those people attain very high level, but no matter what they attain, it's never enough for them. So as we move through giving tools to people, we just want the people to understand that it's not that hard. That it's actually an easy process. It's about a parent learning to validate themselves and learning when their best is adequate or good enough. And then projecting that story to their child, helping their child to understand differently that they are amazing, and they're amazing in their intention. And that we're going to take a moment and celebrate it every time they do something amazing. And so that they can build on their greatness, so that they don't go through their life being impacted by other people who don't even feel enough within themselves.
Yeah. So I think a great question that not only parents can ask their children, but children can ask their parents is, what's something today that you did that you're proud of? Because I think that can start a dialogue of between both, actually, because I don't think parents necessarily stop to look back on the day and acknowledge what they did that they could be proud of. What other are there any other questions that you would say might be something to dialogue between your child and you that might help move past the expectation of the day, or that they were supposed to do certain things?
Well, I think it's all about slowing down, taking time to live in the now, and realize how we're programmed to live our life. And most people are programmed with the message, if you do it right. So a lot of people's intention is to give their best. However, so often when it's met with a negation, if that gets passed on to the child, oh, that's good what you've done, but this is how you can improve. And there's certain times in our life for that, right? Like
Sure.
We're a little kid and we don't know. We need to learn from someone about life. But as we evolve through life, it's best to evolve in building on one's greatness rather than one day becoming great. And the only way we ever are going to get there is to, if you're teaching your child, actually come from yourself. Say, all my life, I, wanted to, be enough. And I thought that meant that all I had to do is give my best. And then I realized that even when I gave my best and did my best, I went to someone who didn't feel enough, and they would tell me how I was not enough. And then how that impacts my identity. We see it in life all the time. We see billionaires that have made billions of dollars, but they still don't feel enough. So it's not about how much money you have, right? If you have a lot of money, great. You get to arrive at your problems in style, but doesn't mean you don't have problems, right? And so, but to the parent, just understand that you have the ability to impact your child's life in a different way by just having a reasonable expectation for your child rather than having an unreasonable expectation. Right? Because if you have reasonable, then it's an attainable goal. But if it's unreasonable, it's saying that no matter what's attained, I'm going to come in and tell you how it's not good enough.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop, and we'll be back with segment 2. Welcome back. We're talking about the power of purpose. So, Dr. Steve, why don't you share with our listeners what your purpose is?
Well, early on in my life, my purpose was about attaining. And everything was about attaining. I wanted to have more money, and I wanted to have more patience. And no matter what level I was able to attain, there was still something that felt like I completely missed in that process. To answer your question, my purpose has been for a long time now to master love for myself. And for me, it really resonates because when I look at my life, how do I start every day? I start every day with love. When I'm faced with fear, some projection of fear, I meet that with love. Why? Because I have a foundation of love. To develop that foundation of love, it's a choice to be loving towards self, which means when you have an opportunity to be self-critical, your choice is, do I want to be self-critical or do I want to be kind and loving? And so as we establish our love for ourselves, we find actions of love. And I see love as the highest energy. So when we're dealing with low energy, people in low energy, I meet low energy people with high energy. And so if someone's critical, I meet it with love. If someone's rejecting, I meet it with love. So to have a rooted purpose that's about loving self, and then to develop actions of love in your life, and then just every day of your life grow in that process. Instead of being a person who is sitting there wanting someone to love you, be a person that actually loves yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have an opportunity to attract a different energy to your life than if you don't love yourself and you're looking for some outside love to love you enough.
So that's an interesting concept because you hear people say someone completes them. You know, they're 50% and then the other person's the other 50%. What would you say in a situation like that?
Well, I don't really agree with that. And because I have studied relationships scientifically over the years. And what I have found is so often people in relationships are in opposite patterns of behavior. But around the process of love, so often I find that neither person expresses love to self.
Right.
So then that puts all the weight on the partner to do the love work that's enough for the person to actually feel love within themselves. And so I think it's interesting concept so that someone's completing. Now you could look at it a little differently because, for instance, my spine curves to the right, more mother influence, more emotional and sensitive. I absolutely do not attract women whose spines curve to the right. I attract women to my life in like every relationship I've ever had that was either a firstborn female or female following female. And in those cases, the spine curved to the left, not right. So yes, maybe there's some completion in that because you have the male in the emotional and the female in the logic, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you put that together, that's maybe
a
completion,
circle. Yeah.
Right? However, the patterns of behavior are completely different. The right curve man was more influenced by a female. He looked for approval from that female, and he wants to be enough for that female. But like I found out in my life, most of the females I've ever attracted in my life were left curvature. They operated in masculine, not feminine. And so I needed to really grow into awareness. And I said, well, what can I learn from the woman in masculine? And what can she learn from the man in feminine? And why are we attracting one another? And so in that, there is completion, right? Mm-hmm. Because I can learn to, as an emotional man, I can learn from the more masculine female how to regulate my emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the masculine female can learn from the emotional man to regulate their heart, to soften their heart, to choose words that are healthy vibration, to realize that all trauma begins before our relationships. So we have our trauma, and then we attract a relationship. So wound attracts wound. Then we have fantasy, and our fantasy says what? I want this person to fulfill what I need fulfilled.
Right, where your parents may have not met a need or...
Correct. It's always fantasy, because the fantasy occurs when you expect a wounded person to know how to give you what you need.
Right.
When they have not even given themselves what they need.
Would you say that most people are in fantasy?
I think most people are in fantasy because in order to come out of it, we're taking our behavioral script,
mm-hmm.
the basic behaviors we were given,
mm-hmm.
and we're not asleep in those behaviors. We want a list like, oh, I'm critical. Well, who did I learn it from? And when I don't like something, I want to abandon. Well, who did I get that from? And when I don't feel good in myself, I want to make other people feel bad in themselves. Who did I get that from? Why do I have a need to be better than this person? Why do I have a need to make this person feel worse than me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's just so much that we can, by looking at the spine
mm-hmm.
systemically,
mm-hmm.
which to me it's so vital. We could look at a part of the spine, a little part.
Mm-hmm.
We could look at the whole spine. We could act like, only a part of the person is present, or we can look at the whole person is present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, talk about purpose. Would I rather be a person who looks at the whole person,
mm-hmm.
comes to a deep awareness for them so they can get beyond their local problem?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I more comfortable only looking at a part in a non-position of stress?
So, Dr. Steve, when we talk about love and it being the highest vibration word, what are some practical tips that you could give someone to embed self-love?
First of all, the words we choose dictate the life we live. And if we want to change our life, the best way to change our life is through our word and our thoughts. When our words are higher vibrational, they're coming from love. It's the highest vibration. It's so much easier to impact our health and our identity. So I look at death and life as the power of the tongue. So the words I choose dictate the life I live. So I have coached people to communicate on a daily basis for years love commands. I kind of like the word embedded commands as opposed to affirmations. Mm-hmm. Because I understand the importance of every word, and every word is intentional. And if we're commanding our words from high vibration, our life has to improve and get better. Mm-hmm. We can also acknowledge the greatness of our life and the journey of our life. So the embedded commands surrounding love are simple. I choose to love myself today. I choose to love the wonderful man I was created to be. When I embed those commands, it really helps the beginning of my day. But if I'm met with fear throughout the day, some fear projection that's being directed at me, I'm always silently doing a love command to cancel out the fear. So if someone's critical, I'm like, oh, I love myself even when they're critical. Instead of, oh, I'm going to be critical of myself because they're critical of me. So having a tool to go to reframe out of that energy of fear and low vibration, right? So to me, embedded commands are vital. Embedding love every day, multiple times a day, is essential. I find most people have never expressed love to themselves. So what can they do today? They can start doing it. Does it mean they believe it? No, it doesn't necessarily mean they believe it, but they're beginning to embed it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way we're ever going to believe something is if we're consistently embedding. Repetition is the mother of skill, so the more I repeat, the better for my identity, for my brain,
mm-hmm.
to hear these mechanisms. So also, I like doing love work for my whole body.
Mm-hmm.
So I might say I love my feet, I love my ankles, I love my calves, and I love my knees, I love my hips, and I love my legs. And, because I'll have someone come in and they'll say, oh, I wish I didn't have these thighs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, well, think for a moment, if you didn't have your thighs, would you be happy with the thighs you have?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people might not have legs.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be real conscious and conscious of especially the things we don't like about ourselves. Those are things that we need to meet with love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can love myself as a bald man, whereas when I was young, I felt so inadequate as a bald man.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
One was shaping my identity. And then all of a sudden, I had a 13-year-old girl tell me, she said, because my hair was receding. I was living in Reseda back then. And, I had some comb over going on. And this little 13-year-old girl says, why don't you just shave your head? I think it will look way better. And then you won't have to stress about all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that was like, I don't even know how long ago that was.
Yeah.
30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to understand that the things we don't like need to be loved as much as the things we do like.
Right.
Because if we can only love ourselves in the things we do like, then that's conditional love. And if we can love ourselves in our totality, then that's neutral love.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we're consistent, because people say, well, I do my love commands, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. They tell me it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, how long have you been doing it? Well, I did it for 2 days. I did it for 2 days and I don't feel any better. And I say, oh no, this is every day for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Imagine if you told yourself you love yourself every day for a year. If every day of your life you began it with love and you realized you didn't have to seek it outside of you, that you could embrace the love that comes from inside of you. That's actually healing, because the journey always is to change from what people before us have done. And people have been so conditionally loving from the generational view. Oh, if you do it this way, I'll love you. But the truth is, the minute you hear that, that person doesn't know how to love, because they're only able to love in condition, right?
Right. So, Dr. Steve, how could a parent best teach their child about love?
I talk to parents about sometimes shocking their children. And so I will say to them, I'll say something like this. When you're in the car with your kids next time, why don't you say something like, oh my gosh, I forgot. Your kids are going to be, what'd you forget, Mom? What'd you forget, Dad?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot to tell myself I love myself today. When we help kids understand that in this family, it's all about love. It's all about neutrality.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about kindness. It's about sharing wisdom. a parent might say, I've gone through my whole life never expressing love to myself ever in my life because that's not what I was taught to do.
Mm-hmm.
But now in my life, I'm committed to expressing love every day. And when we're in the car together, we're all going to work on this love work, not only individually, but as part of a family. Because that's where we start impacting that young life. Because again, the program is, do we want our kids to do the same thing that we go through as parents, that our parents have gone through, and our grandparents and our great-grandparents, and so on and so forth? Or do we want to give our kids a new way of looking at life? Do we want them to do it the same, or do we want them to do things differently? And to me, the goal should be to look at the behaviors that come in generationally, write them down,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they are,
Mm-hmm.
and then the journey begins a process of how can I change that behavior to a new behavior that's different than my family's ever done. Okay?
I don't think very many people probably ask themselves that question. So this is going to definitely stir up some questions for people that are listening.
Most people in life, they see themselves as awake. They think that everything they're doing is their way. And of course, what they're actually doing is bonding with someone else's way. So developing purpose is about letting go of who we're not. Like, I'm not my mother, and I'm not my father, and I'm not their parents and their parents' parents. Mm-hmm. That my job is not to be the same and do things the same. When I ask the question, tell me about the things that you do today that no one in your family does before, mm-hmm. right? Then the reason why I ask that question is to find out if someone's just bonded with a set of behaviors or if they've actually taken behaviors and changed them. And that's truly the goal.
Wow, it gives our listeners something to think about. We'll be right back.
This episode of the Adjusting Your Life podcast is brought to you by Ward Chiropractic. For over 30 years, Dr. Steve Ward has been helping people get to the root cause of their pain. He's a second-generation chiropractor who looks at the whole spine, not just the sore spot. With standing and seated full spine x-rays, Dr. Steve finds what most doctors miss. And his wall adjustment technique, it can bring fast relief. Back pain, sports injuries. Check out chiroman.com for hours, location, and to contact the clinic. Or stop by Ward Chiropractic Family Center today. Mention this ad, and you'll get a free recheck 2 hours after your first adjustment. That's chiroman, chiroman.com.
So, Dr. Steve, I have been doing my love commands for about 5 years now, and I can tell you that in the beginning it was challenging, but over time I was able to, it became a lot more natural to me. It was something I just was doing on a daily basis. And then now, not maybe necessarily like every day, but it pops into my mind for sure. And it's something I'm doing with my daughter. What are some other love commands that people could embed self-love with?
You could say you love anything. So you could say, I choose to love my mind. I choose to love my body. I choose to love my energy. I like to get people started with, I choose to love myself today. I choose to love the wonderful man I was created to be. If you're a female, I choose to love the wonderful woman I was created to be, mm-hmm. which, by the way, on that command, so often, very difficult for women in masculine to tell themselves they love themselves. When I go to that second command and ask them to tell themselves they love the wonderful woman they were created to be, since they're so comfortable and masculine, a lot of times these very strong women will lose it emotionally. right? Because it's what they've always wanted, but it's never been heard. And now they're hearing it, and it causes them to be very emotional, right? So I like those fundamental commands. I choose to love myself today. I choose to love the wonderful man I was created to be. I like the command, my value's not in what I do. My value is in who I am. I think that's so important that we look at it differently from what we're doing to who we are. Like, I am an amazing doctor. I'm even a more amazing person. And so I don't want to just be looked at as a doctor when I'm this amazing person who's actually, what is my purpose in life? Is to help others to learn to love themselves and have joy in their life. And so that's a big purpose of my life, is recognizing that I'm a love and joy provider. So when we say these very basic commands, and please advance them, add to them. Understand that it's always about putting healthy vibration to words that are going to impact your identity in life. If you get in the habit of telling yourself you love yourself every day, if you get in the habit of meeting criticism with love, rejection with love, unreal expectation with love, people who want to resent you with love, what you begin to see is the power you have instead of the power you give up.
Right.
So many people give up their power to someone who's wounded because they had a fantasy that they know how to be healthy, but they don't know how to be healthy. So that's a great misdirection. But I will say this about commands. I've had a lot of people over the years that had never told themselves they loved themselves, and then I would get them to do it. And it was only hard the first time. The first time it's hard. But after that first time, it gets easier and easier. I'm not asking people to believe the command. I'm asking people to embed the command. If we embed a command over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, what the mind will do is believe it to be true.
Right.
Like when I was a kid and coming out of my speech impediments and thinking, oh, well, I'm not smart because none of my friends had problems speaking and I had all these problems. So I had this program in my brain that I was inadequate. And then I didn't try in school because I thought, well, why should I try? I'm stupid and I don't get it, right? And so then what did I have? Evidence to support the belief, right? Then all of a sudden, what happened in my life? I ended up going to a new school, and I had one teacher that told me, hey, Steve, you are really smart. And I'm like, looking at that person like, you're crazy. Right? And he's like, no, you get things really quick. And what was interesting in my life is because of the speech impediments and the difficulty in really learning how to speak and spending 10 years in speech therapy, I learned to learn. And so when I went through challenging classes, even though I was self-sabotaging, I could still sit down and learn the material because of that, the programming I had when I was going through my challenges. And so once I had evidence to change that belief, my whole life changed, right? I went from, I'm inadequate to how truly amazing that I really am and how gifted I am and how much power I have, and having come from wound inside of me, how that has helped me to be the best doctor for others who come to me in their wound, because we're all wounded and we can either stay in wound or we can transform that wound. And the job within us, within each person, is to see their value in who they are as opposed to what they do. It's, as you know, a lot of people think success is money or how many properties or how many toys. But the truth is, those people are people that have missed the boat on mastering love. And when they get into the power of love, they will be able to enjoy all those other things at a whole different level.
So I would say I was one of those people when you met me that had never told myself I love myself in that way. And I think at that time, I believed that my value was either in my work or what I could attain financially, or career-wise, or even motherhood, or being a sister or daughter. And I think that it's important, especially for me, that going back to like the basics of like having the self-love, it changed everything in regards to seeing my value in who I was as a person, not in my achievements. So then as I did achieve things, there wasn't this emptiness that I'd had previously. And so I think that, the people that I know that tend to go for success, they are left with this empty feeling similar to what I had. And so what advice could we give those people that are feeling as they've accomplished certain things, it's accompanied by an emptiness that they thought would be, filled up by achieving these certain, things in life that they have?
Well, the biggest problem is generational inadequacy. So what we're all dealing with on some level is how people before us felt inadequate and how they couldn't make the next generation feel adequate because they felt inadequate. So that's why I focus people on intention. And I say, are you giving your best intention, relatively speaking, to energy and physicality? Mm-hmm. So if I'm in physical pain, my best may be different than if I have no pain. And if I'm exhausted, my best may be different than if I'm abundant. Okay. So, but I want people to build on the greatness. So when they do give their best intention, take a moment, celebrate that. And really, how does that feel to do something, to put focus towards something, to follow through on it, and to make it happen? Like you and I doing this show, right?
Right.
You don't know what you're doing.
Nope.
I don't know what I'm doing. But we're both here sharing our wisdom mm-hmm. and our awareness with people, even though we both know that we're just in the infancy of something here and we don't really know what we're doing.
Right.
Right? But we didn't allow the fear of not knowing to block us from doing this really vital project.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And so anyway, I've seen such amazing change in you. And I know how difficult it was initially. And I would even come over, you do your love commands? Well, no, I didn't do it today. And then I'd come over to the next, oh yeah, I did it. And I do it every day. And sometimes when we miss, it's okay. Because if you're authentic with love for you, you don't necessarily have to do commands all the time. Like I love me and I love others. Mm-hmm. That's where I am in my life. And I treat all people, I don't care, mm-hmm. Where they come from, what they believe in. Mm-hmm. All people that come to see me get the best from me, right? Mm-hmm. And how does that help me? Because I can give my best to someone. And even if they don't get the outcome I want, I'm not left with this feeling of inadequacy because they have a problem, right? I'm realized, I gave my best, and that's enough for me, even though they have a problem. And then I'll say, healing has time. And healing takes time, right? So, what we're doing here is so powerful, and helping people to just take a moment and acknowledge that a purpose is vital for their life and their growth. And why not have a foundational purpose in love? From Scripture, first spiritual fruit, love. Above all, we are to love. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Well, that's wonderful if you actually love yourself. But if you don't love yourself, then guess what happens to your neighbor? Right?
Right.
You get into a lot of that. So anyway, that's kind of what I felt like saying.
I think we end this segment with love.
Yes.
Love, love, love.
Love, love, love. And again, understand when you're in the process of developing this, that you're not tying into a feeling, you're just embedding. You're embedding a command over and over. You're allowing your brain to hear that you're worth loving. And you're allowing your brain to hear how valuable you are. And the scripture on that is we're created in the image and likeness of God. And if you're a believer, you say, God did a great job on me, right?
Right.
Instead of, oh, I got to fix the job God did on me.
Right.
Right? And the minute I go off into fixing, wow, that's so challenging.
Right.
Right? But accepting's not. Like, I can accept that I'm really good at certain things and not so good at other things. If there's a plumbing problem, I call a friend.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But if someone needs healing, that's where I'm great.
Mm-hmm.
But other things, your car breaks down, you probably shouldn't call me.
Mm-hmm.
That car probably won't be running well.
Right.
So understanding our purpose, understanding the value of connecting with it, and putting time into it, and being consistent, because that is the key in life, is consistency. It's the repetition. It's you do it even if you believe it's not working. You keep embedding. You're consistent with that message. And because it needs to be a strong foundation in everything we do, because
before anything,
because if I love me and someone comes into my reality, wants to abuse me, I'm going to boundary that,
right,
instead of accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's like, oh, that doesn't feel good to me, and it doesn't feel good to the person I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happens, then it's like, oh, I'm not going to lose my identity. I'm going to put a boundary. Oh, no, I'm not open to that. Or I'm a zero drama person. And that means you'll get no drama from me. But what that also means is I will accept very little drama from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then protect. That's where we're putting on our spiritual armor in life. Mm-hmm. Because the world's constantly coming at us in fear. It's going to happen with us in this show. People are going to hear things we say, and they're not going to like it. And then other people are going to hear it, and they're going to love it. Mm-hmm. So our job isn't to be enough for people. Our job is to be willing to share a message that's impacted both of our lives in such a profound way.
The love commands can be found in our show notes at adjustingyourlifepodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Steve, and we'll see you next week.
This is a broadcast of the Adjusting Your Life podcast, produced by Adjusted Life Media in 2025. All information contained in this episode and all other content provided on this channel is for informational and entertainment purposes only. This content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you or someone you know is experiencing a medical emergency, please contact your local emergency services. Dr. Stephen M. Ward, D.C., is a board-certified doctor of chiropractic medicine, licensed in the state of California, County of Los Angeles. The Adjusting Your Life podcast is written and produced by executive producer Jamie Knapp and co-produced by Kennedi Hall and Dr. Stephen Ward as Dr. Steve. For more information or to connect with us, visit adjustingyourlifepodcast.com.